Welcome to part 2 of What If Deku Became Divine? Delve deeper into Izuku Midoriya's divine journey with us. Let's explore the exciting possibilities together. Izuku and Kyoka kept an eye on all their classmates and teachers while writing about their quirks and sending the information to the league members. Ibara also shared information about her classmates. She went into detail about that annoying guy, Momona Nato. Izuku still remembered a fight where brains mattered more than strength. Flashback. Todoroki Shizuka wasn't just beautiful with her white and red hair, she was clever, too, freezing everything, especially the ground, which stopped Ojiro from moving. But luck wasn't on her side when Tsuyu could stick to walls, dodging the ice. Shizuka didn't expect a classmate to dodge her attack. Tsuyu quickly wrapped her tongue around Shizuka's waist and threw her against a wall. Shizuka screamed in pain from the impact. When she tried to stand and counter, she found the green-haired girl practically in front of her, receiving a strong kick to the temple, sending her to the ground. Tsuyu placed her hand on the ground, freezing Shizuka's legs, immobilizing her. Shizuka thought that would be enough, but then Tsuyu's tongue tied around her waist, sending her flying towards the door, leaving her dazed from the hit. Tsuyu freed Ojiro, and they returned just in time for Tsuyu to throw a sticky substance on Shizuka's shoulder, making her dizzy. This allowed Ojiro to punch his classmate, who then called for Shoji. He climbed the stairs until he reached Shizuka, now captured and out of the game. She had to face both Tsuyu and Ojiro at the same time. This is bad. Very bad. But Shoji used his 6 arms to climb the walls from outside the building, reaching the room with the bomb. He moved horizontally along the wall to a window, which not only was open but also 2 steps away from the bomb. Captured. End of flashback. They learned about Class 1B's quirks, thanks to Ibara and Kyoka's snooping. Kyoka's quirk practically made her a spy, allowing her to find out about their quirks because it was natural to talk about it with classmates, especially in their first year. So, between the 2 girls, they gathered information about Class 1B and sent it to Kurogiri. Seeing herself trapped in the following days, and realizing that her classmates were all exposed, she could only sigh. If the hero department is already exposed, why not do the same with the other departments? This way, she could save herself while pretending to be a League of Villains spy. She began to investigate some students, like Aoyama Yuga, who had a support item for his quirk. It turned out Aoyama had a birth defect, which explained his need for support. This made the League members trust Ibara. She would never speak about her connection to the League, or it would get Izuku and Kyoka in trouble. So, she would silently ally with the League for the sake of her friends. Of Izuku and Kyoka. Of Adon, Lucifer, and Lilith. Several days later Big brother. A female voice shouted. It can't be, Izuku grumbled mentally as he turned his head to see the green-haired girl stopping beside him, breathing heavily. Thank you. For waiting. The girl said, exhausted and struggling to catch her breath but managing slowly. Hey, Midoriya, her tone was cold and somewhat rude, trying to sound indifferent, which she detected easily. Hi, she said. Should we continue? Yeah, he said. I guess. They resumed walking, soon meeting Kyoka and Tsuyu, with whom Izuku was much warmer and happier. Ribbit. We'll have trouble getting in, Ribbit, Tsuyu said when they were almost at UA. Why do you say that, Tsuyu-chan? Kyoka asked. Her froggy friend pointed, and they saw a crowd of reporters in front of the entrance. I'm not going through those idiots just to be asked about All Might, Ibara grumbled, using her vines to swing onto a lamppost and enter the school. The other 3 shrugged and used the same method. Tsuyu jumped high, Kyoka elongated and entangled her earlobes on the lamppost to enter, and Izuku used a bird from his life tattoo to fly over the wall. Aizawa and Present Might came out and tried to calm the reporters, telling them that All Might wasn't working that day, but they didn't listen, and when one of the reporters tried to enter, the barrier activated. I watched the recordings of yesterday's training. You all did very well, Aizawa told his students. Midoriya, you're a great strategist. Great job to everyone, especially Todoroki, and to you, Asui and Ojiro, for not giving up in training and fighting your opponents. He praised each one of them. By the way, today you'll need to choose a class president and vice president. Everyone voted, and Izuku ended up being chosen, sighing as he took the position. Classes came and went. Izuku enjoyed modern literature and modern art, but it was in hero fundamentals where they had the most important studies, being in a hero academy. And it allowed Izuku and Kyoka to study their classmates. For everyone else, what Izuku and Kyoka were doing by staring at each other seemed like flirting, but in reality, they had a curious and almost abnormal way of communicating, just through small details like tapping their desks a certain number of times with their fingers or spinning a pencil a specific number of times. During lunchtime, they dragged Ibara along with them, and soon Tsuyu and Shizuka were at the same table, chatting as if they were childhood friends. A message arrived on Izuku, Kyoka, and Ibara's phones. They read it and hid their phones as soon as they could. "We'll attack USJ, act like heroes." Izuku proved to be a natural leader when the alarm started blaring, and everyone, very scared, wanted to escape. But Izuku looked out the window, saw what was happening, and summoned a lion that roared and calmed everyone down. "Please, everyone, calm down," the green-haired boy requested. "There's nothing to fear, it's just the press that managed to get in," setting off the alarm. Everyone returned to their respective classrooms after eating. A pink-skinned, muscular villain grabbed a family with one arm after defeating Kamui Woods. Mount Lady and Crazy Dragon were on the ground. "If you come near again, I'll kill these." Missouri Smash. All Might exclaimed, punching the villain with an open hand, knocking him unconscious while aiding the family. "Sorry, I can't stay, but I'll be late for work." He jumped and left. "My time is running out. I'm getting slower. Shit. Help." A man shouted. "Someone help me. The work of a hero never ends, huh?" the hero thought as he changed direction. UA 1205. Today, for your basic hero training, Aizawa began. You'll have 3 teachers, All Might, Vlad King, another person, and myself. For this training, we'll leave the campus. Sero raised his hand. "Excuse me, Sensei, what will we do?" Aizawa pulled out a card from his clothes. "Rescue, in disaster situations. Shipwrecks, cities attacked by villains, cities on fire or hit by blizzards, and much more." "We'll do some hero school stuff," everyone said, very happy. "You can decide whether to wear your costumes or not. This is because, in some cases, hero costumes may interfere in rescue simulations, and it's something that often happens in real life," Aizawa explained as he pressed a button, and hero costumes and gym clothes came out of compartments. After changing, they headed to the area where the buses were, and there they met Class 1B. They greeted each other before boarding the bus and heading to the location for the class. "I usually say everything I think," Asui said. "Midoriya-chan." "Midoriya-chan?" Inner Kyoka and Inner Harumi growled. "Yes, Asui-san?" "Please, call me Tsuyu-chan," she requested, unknowingly getting close to a yandere. "Your quirk is similar to All Might's." Izuku sighed. "It may be true, Tsuyu-san," Harumi said. "But I can assure you that All Might is not our father." "Wait." Ochako suddenly said, looking first at one, then the other. Izuku had black hair fading into green, while Harumi was simply raven-haired. "Are you 2 siblings?" "They don't seem very close," Shizuka opined. "We're not," Izuku said, his voice so cold that it made Harumi fall silent, feeling her brother's anger. "Don't talk to him like that, President," Eijiro pleaded. But Izuku didn't respond. "Okay, we're almost there," Aizawa said. Upon disembarking, they met Vlad King and Class 1B, along with a rescue specialist hero who looked like a mix of Michelin and an astronaut. 13, where's All Might?" Vlad King asked. "He's very tired from hero work. He saved many people and solved several crimes on his way here," 13 said, skirting Vlad King's question. "It's the height of irrationality," both teachers complained, shaking their heads. "Many of you probably know about my quirk, right?" 13 said. "I can absorb anything, thanks to my black hole. And remove rubble, saving over 20,000 people," Ochako exclaimed excitedly. "Like in the Dead Hole event 15 years ago," Harumi said, excitedly. "Oh. So you've seen recordings of that?" Many of them answered affirmatively. "Okay, let me tell you some things about it. 1 word. Or 2. Or 3. She's ramping it up, they all thought. "Everyone knows my quirk, black hole. I can absorb objects like debris and rescue people," 13 explained. "But it's a quirk that can easily kill. Many of your quirks can be very dangerous, and you must learn how to turn them into an advantage. You have quirks to save lives, not to end them." "We'll start at the ravine," Aizawa said. "Midoriya and Chonin, you 2 will." An electric shock passed through the floodlights, causing them to explode as the power source failed and a portal opened, and from it emerged Shigaraki Tomura. Soon many criminals were coming out of the portal. Everyone, gather around, and don't move. 13. Protect the students, Aizawa ordered as he ran towards the people coming out of the portal. What's happening? Eijiro asked. Is it like the entrance exam where the lesson starts right away? Don't move. Aizawa ordered. These are real villains. There's no way they'd get in. Eijiro said. Kyoka looked at the blonde. Kaminari, the request was clear, even if silent. There's no signal. It's dead, the boy said, testing his earpiece. A quirk that blocks radio waves, then, Izuku said. Well said, Niazan, Harumi said. They're getting too close. Everyone prepared to fight. And she was the first to do so, throwing a tiny, insignificant tongue of fire that spread uncontrollably, burning a group of nearly 20 villains. Izuku took out his book. Until this day they still dwell in a lonely valley, they do not fear the howling of the wolf or the lion's roar. The griffin vulture and a raven emerged from Izuku's tattoos, attacking the villains. Griffin shot lightning bolts, while the raven threw its feathers, cutting through their enemies. Aizawa nullified the villains' quirks one by one, then attacked them with his hand-to-hand combat skills, entangling them in his capture scarves and making them crash into each other. Vlad King summoned a large mass of blood and manipulated it, shaping it into a flat sheet like a scarlet blanket, which he wrapped around several enemies. Eijiro charged at several villains, who tried to hit him back, but he was assisted by Mezzo, Mashirao, Rikido, and Tetsu. Momo used a metal rod to attack her enemies. Izuku continued controlling his two birds, Griffin and Raven, having them throw feathers or use their claws or beaks, or summoning Shadow Panther. Kyoka unleashed sound waves that incapacitated her enemies. Hanta bound them with his tape, while Yuga struck and burned them with his laser. Ochako pretended to flee from them, but her goal was to reach the collapsed area, where she grabbed many rocks and threw them at her pursuers, aided by Shizuka, who froze the villains. Tenya delivered powerful kicks with great force due to his speed. Tsuyu's strength lay in her legs, but sometimes she threw her stinky mucus to lower her enemy's guard by making them prefer not to breathe. Mina used her acid, catching everyone off guard. Fumikage utilized Dark Shadow. Katsuki employed his explosions. Monoma copied the quirks of one and another, using them against them or against several. Kendo hit more than one enemy by making her hands increase in size. Kanoko did surprisingly well. The last thing any criminal would expect was for a sweet girl with a mushroom costume to stop them, but that's exactly what she did when she caused mushrooms to grow on their bodies, leaving even 10 enemies incapacitated with specific types of mushrooms. Ibara didn't hold back as she spoke about humanity's sins, capturing the villains with her vines and leaving them badly wounded from the thorns. Yui could seem as helpless as Kanoko, and that played a bad joke on their enemies when she threw tiny rocks, gravel, or nuts and bolts at them, causing them to grow in size, rendering them unable to fight. Setsuna instilled disgust and terror in her enemies by dividing her body into so many parts, and when they were distracted, she struck them with her fists or feet, leaving them out of commission. Yosetsu welded the feet of many villains to the ground before knocking them unconscious. Reiko was guided to the destroyed city and levitated objects with her poltergeist, as long as they weighed as much as a human, throwing them at the villains, or a villain at another. But she was only the first student transported because soon the mist villain called Kurogiri transported all of them to different places, except Izuku, Kyoka, and Ibara, who quickly thawed and leapt through the mist. Kyoka plunged her connectors into the ground and then into Kurogiri, who would never have expected to hear the voice of the infiltrator practically in his head. Did you really think you could kill any of the two classes? Yes, Kurogiri replied. But the real target was All Might, that's why we brought Nomu. Can you imagine what would be said, and where the reputation of UA would stand, if it were known that several students died in one day? Several screams interrupted everyone. The students managed to gather until they found Minoru Mineta from Class A1 and Katsaku Hiroki from Class B1 dying at the hands of Shigaraki, except for their hands, which remained intact. Bastard, Izuku shouted, launching himself at Shigaraki, seemingly seeking revenge for the deaths of his classmates. Nomu. The villain shouted. The large, muscular monster with black skin and gray highlights and red scars stood before Shigaraki. Meteor punch, Izuku exclaimed, hitting the monster hard. It's useless, kid, Shigaraki said. Its main quirk is impact absorption. Izuku smiled. That just means one thing, I just have to keep hitting it until it can't absorb anymore. Shigaraki, Kyoka said, speaking almost into his ear, as with Kurogiri. Wouldn't it be great publicity for UA if a first-year student defeats the creature that supposedly would defeat All Might, and besides, wouldn't that make them trust us even more? Divine Axe, Izuku exclaimed, kicking the Nomu, sending it flying. Impossible, Shigaraki shouted in amazement. Diamond Mode, Izuku exclaimed. Kyoka and Ibara opened their eyes wide, seeing what Izuku did. Something that supposedly was. Hero name, loudspeaker. Ability, voice. He can increase the volume of his voice, giving him the ability to make high-pitched and loud sounds. His sound wave can even burst the eardrums of his enemies. But the shout only lasts for 7 to 17 seconds. After that, he must wait another 7 seconds before shouting again. Hero name, Snipe. Ability, homing. He can control the trajectory of bullets unless something obstructs his field of vision or a sudden environmental change occurs. Hero name, Midnight. Ability, Sleep Aroma. She can put a target to sleep, thanks to the essence that emanates from her body. She had to break her sleeve, perhaps to prevent the suit from being destroyed, allowing her to be defeated. Hero name, Vlad King. Ability, Blood Manipulation. He can manipulate the shape of blood, as well as harden it when restraining his enemies. I think there is a time limit. We're making progress, said Kyoka on that Monday when they returned to class, as UA had closed the school due to the incident at USJ. We're collecting the names of the teachers and students. That's true. We're making good progress, and everyone is happy, said Izuku before closing his eyes and forming a look of anger on his face. What's wrong? Kyoka and Ibara asked. That idiot Shigaraki, Izuku growled angrily at the stupidity of the villain with bluish-gray hair. Why reveal to everyone the existence of the League itself? Why say there's a group of wrongdoers calling themselves the League of Villains? He's an idiot. He's the kind of person Lucifer holds in the lowest esteem, and those who suffer the most in the loop in his hellish cell. I'll handle it, said Lucifer in my mind. Even now, I have many powers over the remaining kings and the souls of the damned. The remaining kings? Asked Izuku, confused. Asmodeus, Lord of Lust, Astaroth, Prince of Lies, Azazel, Lord Forger of Weapons, of War and Senseless Violence, Baal Peor, Prince of Laziness, Deceivers, and Purveyors of Falsehoods, Leviathan, Lord of Envy and the Sea and Mammon, Prince of Greed and Wealth, and I was the leader of the rebellion and the seventh Lord, Lucifer responded. And Lilith? Izuku asked, confused. I regret to say this about her, but she was a human to whom I gave power similar to ours, and the fruit of life to make her immortal. She learned sorcery and magic in general, to the point of gaining the power of shadows and ice, but she was not born as a demon or an angel, so she doesn't have an official position, but she's a princess and rules by my side as my wife, Lucifer replied. 2 days before, UA teacher's office. The police are investigating the group calling themselves the League of Villains, Detective Naomasa said. But it seems there's no one registered with the last name Shigaraki, between the ages of 20 and 30, with the disintegration quirk, whatever he touches. The same goes for the villain calling himself Kurogiri and his portal quirk. They're probably not citizens, and those are fake names. In other words, people with unregistered quirks, part of the underworld of society. When the leader Shigaraki's wounds heal, he'll try again, Snipe said. Shigaraki. A leader, murmured All Might, in his emaciated/civil form. What's wrong, All Might? Nezu asked. This attack is something a normal person wouldn't do, even if they thought about it, the blonde hero said. To suddenly come out with such wild statements. Even if he didn't reveal his quirk, he seemed very confident in that Nomu thing that Chonan Shonen destroyed. And when things didn't go as he planned, he got angry. His statements were wild and immature. A young man who had a very difficult childhood and adolescence, and was forced into delinquency. He managed to gather a few wrongdoers and decided to attack UA maybe like a child trapped in an adult's body. Maybe he never received quirk advice in elementary school? Midnight asked. So what should we do about it? Snipe asked. All the villains arrested were typical street thugs and small-time wrongdoers you find in alleys, Naomasa said. But the problem is how all of them accepted that man-child and followed his orders. There are too many heroes, villains feel oppressed, and maybe that's what made them attracted to Shigaraki. 2 days later, 1A classroom. Someone filmed the whole incident, and it ended up on the news and the internet, Eijiro said. The UA hero department has been attacked by real villains, Tokoyami said. That's not how things should be. It's very worrying, Ochako said, concerned. What are you thinking, Ochako-chan? Suyu asked. Ochako sighed. Every year, something called the UA Sports Festival is held, she began. And it's an event where professional heroes watch us, the students, in different athletic tests that usually end in combat. And then we do fieldwork, Kaminari said, smiling. Yes. It's truly fantastic. Professional heroes send us requests to watch them in action, and we also work. Chonan will receive many requests, Rikito said as he threw punches into the air. You're very powerful, and you're already thinking about your special moves. Izuku gave him a smile, which soon turned into a sad smile. My childhood wasn't the easiest, Rikito-kun. The story of an anti-villain. When I was born, I had the extra bone, meaning I should be a mukasei, he began to tell. That caused me a lot of bullying in elementary school. My mother and sister treated me like dirt, or even hit me, throwing objects at me, as my mother's quirk is a lower-level telekinesis, and my sister's was fire breath. One day, we went to the park and some people surrounded us. My mother wanted to protect my sister. She only cared about her little princess with a quirk, who could be a great hero and give her a life of luxury. She allowed them to take me. They turned out to be organ traffickers in the black market. Everyone widened their eyes, gasping in astonishment and disbelief. But they soon found out that I could regenerate my organs, even though I was supposedly a mukasei. No. Don't tell me they. A very agitated Momo pleaded. It wasn't always the same doctor who removed the organs, and some of those doctors performed the procedures carelessly. Eventually, I discovered the enhancement quirk, then the fire quirk, and then the animal quirk. I freed myself thanks to the latter and escaped. I encountered some very kind people of Western descent who took me in, and their quirks were identical to mine, so they taught me how to use them. Much later, I met Ibara-chan from Class 1B, and then Kyoka-chan. Both of us clenched our fists, everyone realized. We couldn't save Kyoka-chan's friend. Everyone fell silent, but they all looked angrily at Harumi. Kyoka, who was a childhood friend of Izuku, seemed like she wanted to kill her. My father. When father left. And when you were kidnapped, mother took 3 days to leave her room, Harumi began, tears streaming down her face. When she did, she reported you as kidnapped. We never found you. Mother spiraled into self-destructive behavior out of regret for what we did to you. Our food began to run out, and I tried to get her to eat, but I wasn't very successful. Aunt Mitsuki helped us, and mother entered a psychiatric aid program. She managed to recover and enrolled in a fast-track hero learning school. A smile formed on her lips. She's the hero Green Hope. Where do you live, Chonan-chan? Tsuyu asked. Not far from here, she said indifferently. At first. I lived in the same cabin where the organ extractions took place. I killed them all, thanks to tattoo life. Izuku's gaze darkened. When I still didn't know how to use it. When terror and survival instinct activated it for the first time. The door opened. Sensei is about to come in, everyone, sit. We're all seated, it's just you standing, Ida-san, Tokoyami said. Mina leaned back in her chair. Su-chan, who? Tsuyu pushed Mina's chair before she could fall. Who do you think our sensei will be today? Tsuyu put a finger to her chin. Well, sensei should still be undergoing treatment. The door opened, and Aizawa entered, looking like a mummy. Aizawa-sensei, you're back too soon. They all exclaimed. Sensei, are you okay now? Mina asked, worried. Do you call this being okay? Ochako asked, somewhat scared. My health doesn't matter, Aizawa said, limping to the platform. What's more important is that the fight isn't over. Fight? Katsuki asked. Does he mean? Izuku asked. The villains? Mineta was wetting himself. The UA Sports Festival is near, Aizawa announced. That's just a super normal school event. They all shouted. Wait, Denki said suddenly. Is it okay to hold a festival like this when we've just been attacked by villains? Kyoka asked. Do they plan another attack during the festival, and if so, why didn't Shigaraki tell us anything? What if they attack us again? Ojiro asked. They apparently think UA's crisis management system is as solid as a rock to carry out the event, Aizawa said. Security has also been strengthened fivefold compared to previous years when this same event was held. Above all, our sports festival is a great opportunity. It's not an event to be cancelled because of some villains. But that's a good reason, right? Harumi asked worriedly. It's just a festival. Have you never seen the UA Sports Festival? Izuku asked, to which Harumi shook her head. Rules at home, ever since we thought you were dead. You loved heroes, and this is a hero academy. It took me a lot to convince mother to let me try to get in here. She added. To a hero school, in general. The sports festival is one of the biggest events in Japan, Izuku continued. In the past, the Olympics were called a sports festival, and the whole country was crazy about them. Now, the Olympics are the UA Sports Festival. After the festival, you'll go with a hero who's interested in you. After graduating, it's normal to join a hero agency as co-workers, Kaminari said, smiling. And many people miss their chance to become independent afterward and become lifelong partners, Kyoka said, before looking mockingly at Kaminari. I think you'll be one of them. Of course, joining a famous agency will give you more experience and popularity. 1 opportunity per year. Only 3 opportunities. No aspiring hero can miss this event, Izuku said. You have a week off. A training week, to be precise. Izuku stood up and approached Izuku when he knew the class was over, placing his hands on his teacher's bandaged and plastered arms before emitting a pink light from them. Celestial healing. Yes, I know about that quirk of yours, Izuku affirmed as the man felt much better and removed his bandages. I feel perfectly. The door opened. Hello everyone. All Might greeted, appearing with his hands on his hips. Ready to have a discussion about the duty of heroes? Izuku, you need to assist All Might, Izuku said. He took a very powerful blow from an extremely dangerous enemy almost 7 years ago, and this muscular form you're so used to seeing isn't constant. It's a temporary transformation due to his quirk. 7 years ago, Izuku murmured. I'm not sure how much I can do, considering all the time that has passed. Don't worry, Chohan Shonen. All Might said, smiling. Just do what you can, but don't overdo it. I understand, Izuku said as he extended his hands, and the same pink light radiated over the blonde hero. Izuku clenched his teeth, tensing his arms and torso, then his legs. It's not much. I don't know how much I've really been able to regenerate, sensei. Thank you for your help, Chohan Shonen, it's more than any hero and healing quirk has achieved in the past, All Might said, flexing his right hand. Yes. I definitely feel revitalized. So, are you ready for the sports festival? Yes, Izuku said. Allow me to tell you about a special training, the perpetually smiling blonde hero said, hands on his hips, whispering into his ear what he had planned as a training method. Insane, Lucifer responded with closed eyes, shaking his head and crossing his arms. This guy, he's not right in the head. Perhaps, but if it's going to work, it will definitely work, Adam said, something passing through his mind as he brought a hand to his chin. Curious, I think he reminds me of another son of mine who had a very crazy training. Chohan-kun seems to have caught All Might's attention, Ochako said. Definitely, Ida said. Do you remember what Tsuyu said on the bus on the way to the USJ? Their quirks are similar, so surely All Might likes him. All Might. Chohan Izuku-kun, Shizuka thought coldly, before realizing and blushing. Wait. Why did I think of him as Izuku-kun? She asked herself, frightened. A while later, they both returned to the cafeteria, talking about using the Gamma Gym for Izuku's training. Soon after, All Might called Rikido, Eijiro, and Mezzo. Maybe the gray-haired, masked boy's quirk was more for espionage, but physically, he was strong, so All Might also offered him training before the sports festival. Memory. Chohan-kun, my quirk is called One for All, and it's a quirk that can be passed from one person to another, All Might said. After my battle and having my internal organs destroyed, I've been looking for a successor for a long time. Then, I saw you in the fight against the Mud Villain and later against the Nomu. Thank you for considering me, All Might, Izuku said. But I already have a great burden to bear. Those who took me in after I escaped from my captors so many years ago talked to me about the injustices of the world. About how only a few have great privileges while others die every day among the garbage. How the world is so imbalanced between social classes. I somehow have to give everyone what they deserve. What they need. Maybe a few loaves of bread aren't enough, but it might be the beginning of a change. A hero by day and a Robin Hood by night. Izuku looked at his right hand. I can't be the symbol of peace. And it's not like I'm going to do anything illegal, but I'll get too close to it to achieve my dream. As hope for the less fortunate, the most hopeless. Those who have gone through what I went through. End of memory. When the class schedule came to an end, Class A1 students prepared to leave but were blocked by hundreds of students. What business do you have with Class A1? Ida asked. We can't get out. What did they come for? Mineta asked, feeling intimidated. I'm not sure if this will work. Izuku warned his classmates, walking to the front and releasing the killing intent he felt from Samael during that short combat in the trial against Eva. That same ki made everyone step aside as he left the room, and the others followed him. Well, it worked. Not bad, Izuku, Ibara said, with a flirtatious tone. She was more Eva than Ibara. Can you imagine a fight between us? Izuku gave her a flirtatious smile. That would be quite interesting, gorgeous. But doesn't the Bible say you shouldn't flirt? Ibara leaned closer to his ear. Doesn't the Bible say my husband should only be mine, and I'm sharing you? She whispered. She spoke loud enough for Kyoka to hear. But Izuku didn't change his gaze from Ibara, who gave him a bored look, but each one is tempted when by his own evil desire he is dragged away and enticed. Then, after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, gives birth to death. James 1:14-15. When she felt Kyoka's presence behind her, her gaze changed from flirtatious to angry. I am Lilith, I am the woman who refused to be submissive to her husband, but... Girls, learn to get along, Izuku requested, sighing. So, this is when they meet, Adam said thoughtfully. If both of them love me, I don't want them to turn this into a test of whom do I love more? Because I will learn to love them both, he said, closing his eyes and crossing his arms. But Kyoka, with just her laughter, broke that speech, which could have sounded so mature. And what will you do about the way Tsuyu and Shizuka look at you? Will you start a harem and add them to it? If what you say is true, then I will talk to them about it, Izuku said. I want to know what they think or feel about me. They both gave him a smile that conveyed love. But my gaze was serious and hard, directed at Ibara. Lucifer manifested, I gave you the fruit that made you equal to God. It gave them knowledge, and look what they created. Civilization, eras of technology, knowledge. As many good things as negative ones, Ibara said. But still. They are our children. They are, Izuku said, externalizing Adam's thought. And we will defend them, he whispered in her ear. Even if it means defending them from each other, or if it means becoming a villain to a few of my children. I felt his embrace. They were unaware of the events in which they would participate until that day arrived, so they all trained as best they could. Izuku trained in martial arts, trained to create weapons of light and shadows, and to create wings of both elements. He trained in Lucifer's divine fire and Lilith's dark wind/ice. There was no need to train the life tattoo, so he set that aside. He jogged, ran, did push-ups, and leg exercises. Tsuyu trained in an Olympic-sized pool, which presented some challenges: water swirls, suction, bubbles, sharks, or octopuses. Shizuka, even with the great hatred she felt for her father, found a way to train. She filled a tub with water, heated the water, and then cooled it until it turned into ice. Kyoka buried her jack connectors in stone to improve their sound quality and tried to do the same in metal, as well as spinning darts in them before throwing them at a target. Ida ran several kilometers. Shoji lifted heavy weights with his 6 arms. Ojiro jumped from one house to another in the Beta Training Center. Along with him, Hanta trained, and they had managed to get the director to lend them some one-point robots to train with. Ochako levitated chunks of concrete at USJ while Mina split them with her acid, and Aoyama also split concrete blocks with his laser. Eijiro jumped from great heights with his hardening. Bakugo created many explosions. Harumi caused large fires with her fire breath, and then tried to control that same fire. Denki created an electric space in front of him. Tokoyami forced Dark Shadow to be under many spotlights to withstand the light. Momo learned more things and calculated her range and creation capacity. Ibara controlled her hair in vines and tried to make the thorns longer. She also made trees and plants grow around, thanks to Eva's chi. What was Mineta doing? And why does that matter to you? Time passed very quickly. And the morning of the festival arrived. /Ogar Midoriya/ Harumi-chan, be careful, Inko begged. I will, I promise, she said as she grabbed her backpack. I'll record it, okay? In high definition, she said excitedly. Harumi couldn't help but laugh. Okay. Try hard. Try hard, she whispered. I'm going, Harumi said, smiling. // At UA, everything was organized so that students and teachers had one entrance, and civilians, heroes, and reporters had another. This is taking too long, complained the crazy reporter. They suffered the attack of the villains, it's normal for them to take their time, said the cameraman. Many criticized their decision to hold the festival this year. Controversy equals ratings, said the crazy reporter. Class 1A will be the ones to watch this year, huh? Third-year students have always been the ones most eagerly watched due to their experience, the cameraman said to his colleague. But this year, the first-year students, those who survived the attack by the so-called League of Villains, are the ones drawing all the attention. An order of takoyaki, please, requested the young heroine Mount Lady. A blonde girl with a violet horned mask had a spandex suit in violet and cream colors, with tiny orange details. No seaweed, please. It's 500 yen, said the vendor. Oh my, she pretended. I don't have that much money right now. She struck a sensual pose she learned from Midnight. It's free. Don't get distracted. There's work ahead, grumbled an annoyed Death Arms as he watched Mount Lady eat. I hope I can explore a bit. This year, all eyes are on the first-year classes, A and B, said Kamui Woods. Security comes first, no other way about it, grunted Death Arms, who wished to do exactly the same. Don't worry about a thing, said a voice. The three heroes looked down. Principal, they said at the same time. Am I a bear, a dog, or a mouse? Asked the mysterious voice. My identity is, the director Nezu. As I was saying, don't worry. All of you will see the recordings in maximum definition to choose a student. Thank you. Not only did the three heroes say this, but many others did too. / waiting room / Ah, I wanted to wear my costume, lamented Mina, wearing her physical education outfit. Horikoshi still hasn't come up with the costumes for Class B1 and the others, so he forces us to wear the gym uniforms, said Ojiro. Take 2. Ah, I wanted to wear my costume, lamented Mina, wearing her physical education outfit. To keep things fair, we can't, said Ojiro. Rikido felt worried and wondered aloud, how will the first round be? Tokoyami replied, there's no point in asking ourselves that. Let's just wait until it happens. Shoji agreed, you were right. Blushing slightly, Shizuka approached Izuku and said, Chohan-kun, can I ask for your help? Izuku, also blushing from how close she was, responded, how can I help you, Todoroki-chan? Still blushing, Shizuka grabbed Izuku's shirt collar, pulled him closer, and gave him a quick peck on the cheek. I want to be worthy. I want to be worthy of facing Jiro-chan and Shiozaki-chan. And being the one to win your heart. If I have to face you, I won't hold back. Izuku sighed. Bring it on with all you've got, Todoroki-chan, he said reassuringly. Do you understand my words, Miss Chohan? Todoroki blushed, but Kyoka noticed that those words weren't just for Shizuka. She quickly glanced at the faces of her other classmates. Kyoka thought, this will be even more interesting with Tsuyu and Harumi, smiling. Shizuka, blushing heavily, stepped back and averted her gaze from Izuku's face. Izuku. When I saw your strength enhancement quirk. I thought it might be possible that All Might was your father, but you and your aunt denied it, so. She sighed, turned, and left. Izuku followed her outside, clearly wanting to talk about something important. Though for a moment, Izuku wasn't sure if he wanted to talk or take advantage of her. She was too close. Too close. I think you deserve to know something about me. My father is Endeavor. As the second greatest hero in Japan, he practically forced my grandparents to sell my mother to him. We're 4 siblings, but I'm the only one who inherited both quirks. Toya Niazan had the fire quirk, but he was smart and escaped. Fuyumi Nichin and Natsuo Niazan are. Well. He blushed. Fuyumi Ne got a scaled-down version of our mother's ice quirk, so she couldn't become a hero, and that's why father left her alone. Natsuo Niazan is quirkless. Tears welled up in his eyes, and he hugged himself. When father saw that I had both quirks, he kept me away from everyone. From my siblings, who could play whenever they wanted. He wouldn't let me go outside, make friends. He trained me. Day and night. He turned around, unzipping his shirt and letting it fall, revealing his back, which was covered in burn scars. Unfortunately for Shizuka, it wasn't just Izuku who heard, it was also their other classmates who had listened. He always told me that I was destined to surpass All Might while he trained me in my fire quirk relentlessly. And one day, my mother was on the verge of a nervous and mental breakdown. My mother was disgusted by my father and also my right side. He scalded me with boiling water. And after that, my father had her committed to a psychiatric hospital. After that, I decided to make it my dream to be a hero. To be a recognized hero, but only using my mother's quirk. That was my dream, I thought that was my path. Then I saw you, in the quirk test class, in the class with All Might, and in the USJ. He looked into her eyes. You are a true hero, Chohan-kun. I want to be that kind of hero. To save others with all my quirks, not just using one. I want to get rid of this burden on my shoulders and... He lowered his gaze. I thought you could help me. You said they helped you with these quirks, right? Yes, he said. That was his entire response. All right. How does it feel, carrying other people's dreams? If those dreams aren't what you like. If you're not interested in them. Izuku took Shizuka's hands. Then set them aside and find other dreams that you can pursue. Find a reason to protect others with your flames and your ice. Remember 13 Sensei's words? She nodded after a few minutes. They have quirks to defend others, not to harm them. Your flames are a sword, and your ice is a shield, said Izuku. We'll defend the innocent, the vulnerable. We will, she said. I'm going to defeat you. Keep dreaming, Miss Chohan, Izuku said with a smile before kissing Shizuka on the lips. The UA Sports Festival is about to begin. Present Mike narrated. The great battle of young hero prospects, who wield their swords every year. These are the kids, right? The miraculous new stars who overcame the enemy's attack with their hearts of steel. The hero course, classes A1 and B1. There are too many people. Izuku and Harumi said, terrified. Will we be able to do our best surrounded by so many people? Tenya asked. Wow, this is amazing praise. Blushed Eijiro. Okay. Now I'm getting nervous. Everyone was surprised by Shizuka's tone of voice. She was always quite stoic, but her face showed how nervous she was, to the point that some of her red hair covered her left eye. For my part, I'm getting more into this, Bakugo said. This is amazing. Kendo said. Now, everyone will see my magnificence, a smiling Nato said, waving. And no. It won't be easy to give our best, with so many watching us, said Juzo, a boy who seemed to be a skull. We can do this, Tetsu said. Of course we can. We just have to focus on achieving it, Reiko said. God, you're always with us. Take away these nerves from our shoulders, Ibara whispered the prayer quickly. Amen, said Juzo, Tetsu, hear you, Togaru, and Manga, who were being consumed by nerves. Soon, students from the support, general studies, and business departments appeared, joining the others. Because of Bakugo, now everyone would go against the Heroics Department 1A, but he did it only so his classmates would see what the future danger would be, being cornered by villains. And so, the first game was about to begin. A race. Everyone stood in front of the door, waiting for the lights at the top to turn on. It didn't even cross their minds, that door was too small for more than one person to go through at a time. In other words, they'd have to go almost single file. No. Truly, nobody thought about it and just ran forward, getting stuck. Shizuka unleashed ice, pushing everyone forward, and leaving their feet frozen. Ouch! Someone complained. What the heck? Grumbled another random student. Our feet. Groaned a random student. The ground was frozen, I can't move, said another. But Todoroki wasn't foolish, she knew many could escape. And just as she hoped and wished. A smile appeared on her lips as she looked back. How naive, Todoroki-san. Momo asked, who had created a metal pole to propel herself in the air like a pole vaulter. Aoyama propelled himself into the air, thanks to his quirk. Tokoyami escaped the ice, thanks to Dark Shadow. Bakugo made it through, thanks to his explosions. Tsuyu simply had to jump, then she was sliding on the ice like a skater. Izuku smirked as he rode on a lion the size of a horse. Kyoko went with him, then jumped and used her sound waves to levitate and move forward. Come here, half and half bastard. Bakugo shouted as he propelled himself with an explosion forward. Masharao jumped on his legs and propelled himself with his tail. You caught me with that once, you won't do it again. Several purple balls fell to the ground, and Shizuka was surprised to see Mineta jumping from one to another while grabbing 2 more balls from his head. You're pathetic, Todoroki, now I'm going with my special attack. But the claw of a 0-point robot struck him, sending him flying. The 0-point robots, several shouted. But before Shizuka could attempt anything, Tsuyu was already there. She jumped on a robot and kicked it 3 times, 1 frontal, 1 sideways, and for the last one, she jumped as high as she could and delivered a downward kick, making the robot tremble and fall as she took the lead. My idiotic father is watching, grumbled the red and white-haired girl as she froze a robot, which fell directly on top of Eijiro, who barely managed to harden himself, and on Tetsu, who barely managed to turn his body into steel, thus both survived. Izuku sent the lion forward to attack the robot, then sent the griffin vulture. It opened its beak and spat lightning and also attacked with feathers. Kyoka released her sound waves to destroy one of the 0 points. Ibara tangled her thorny vine hair around a 0 point, then elongated and enlarged the thorns, destroying the robot. Hanta swung on the arm of one robot and then another, passing by. Dark Shadow attacked while Tokoyami watched, striking a cool pose as he continued running forward. Ida ran at great speed, spun in the air, used a nitro boost from his engines, and kicked, knocking down a robot. Classes A1 and B1 don't play. They attack head-on, narrated Aizawa. Those who have faced villains don't stand still. Kendo enlarged her fists and threw one punch after another, not against one robot, but against 3. Hiryu shot scales from his arms, destroying the robots. Jeyu's EO softened the ground, causing a robot to sink. Manga created several explosion onomatopoeias, and the robot in front of him fell victim to those explosions when they emerged in the real world. Narengeki let himself be hit, causing the robot to receive a blow to its body due to his quirk. Pony attacked with her horn cannon. She could shoot horns, regenerate others, and control them. She fired hundreds of horns until she managed to make the robotic villain fall. After running for a while, they found a fake canyon with ropes. Hey. Was the first barrier too simple? Present Mike asked. Then, what about the second? If you fall, you're out. If you don't want to fall, gay teen, the fall. Tsuyu was the first to dare to pass it, clinging to the rope and literally crawling. Ribbit. This is a piece of cake for me. But Izuku flew over her, thanks to Griffin and the Crow, to the other side. Shizuka reacted and froze a rope to slide across while crossing to the other side. Bakugo flew over the ravine. But catching up with Tsuyu and Izuku wouldn't be easy. Niazan must be watching, said Tenya. I have to do this amazingly. He extended his arms horizontally, crossed with one foot forward and the other back, while expelling nitro from one foot. That's outdated. Harumi had to cross it, slowly dragging herself along the rope with her feet crossed. Izuku and Tsuyu found themselves in a minefield, and it was a surprise for them to see a panting Kyoka arrive, followed by Ibara and Shizuka, as all 5 tried to cross the minefield. If you step on one, you won't die. But it'll sound very loud and make you wet your pants, said Present Mike. But Izuku took the lead because he never stopped using Griffin, while he listened to the curses of the 4 girls. He turned to them, blew them a flying kiss, and advanced, crossing the finish line like the winner in first place of that race. Now, the second phase would come, a cavalry race, where they would form teams and fight for each other's points. Shizuka began using her fire when Izuku approached her to grab her bandana. To the bicolor-haired girl's amazement, when she ignited her right side, her fire was drawn towards the hand of the boy she liked, as if it were metal attracted by a magnet, or like any object from outer space drawn by a black hole, because the orange fire was consumed by the white fire in the palm of the boy's hand. Time, Midnight shouted, stopping Izuku. Soon, it was revealed who had passed to the final round. The combat round began. And the first combat surprised everyone. Chohan Izuku vs Monoma Nato. This will be interesting, undoubtedly, Nato said, stepping into the ring. Yes. This will be a day to remember, Izuku affirmed, very sure. Nato didn't know it, but Izuku literally had the essence of humanity within him. That meant he could make his abilities, which were not necessarily his, nor naturally ordered in human nature, undergo a metamorphosis, transforming them into Kosei. Go ahead, then. Let's go, Nato said, smiling, unaware that Izuku knew about his Kosei, thanks to Ibara. I'll show you why Class 1B is better. He ran towards Izuku at great speed, and the green-haired boy imitated him. Meteor jab. Izuku was much faster than Nato could have expected, giving him a combo of punches in 0.001 seconds. Nato retreated, either from the impact or to create distance from his rival. Okay, Nato-san. It's your turn to attack. Of course, he grunted, lunging at Izuku, who kicked him in the chin, causing him to look up at the sky and then fall on his own rear. Approaching like that, you'll never. But Nato did it. Judging by the terrifying smile on his face, one could say he had achieved something. Now. I have your Kosei, Nato said, smiling. Yes. I can tell by your eyes, Izuku said, pointing to his own eyes in the process. You have the same 6-pointed star shape as my iris. Congratulations, now you have the Lord's eyes. This guy must really rub you the wrong way to do this, Regenleaf said. Father. Won't you say anything about this? Izuku asked. Adam's silence in a fight like this was terrifying for Izuku. Some of my children definitely need certain punishments, was all Adam said. Some are perhaps too arrogant. Izuku didn't use any of his divine techniques, nor ones copied in the past. Just ordinary martial arts, or what he had been able to copy over time, but nothing special. And this was what Nato was copying as the blows between them went back and forth. Surrender and deactivate theology. Dodges, blocks, and counterattacks. Attacks at great speed. Surrender and deactivate theology. Incredible destruction attacks. Finally, the last straw broke, and everyone watched as blood escaped from the blonde boy's eyes, who screamed in pain as he fell to the ground. And this happened to my father, Izuku said to his rival, with an indifferent air. The pressure that theology, or the Lord's eyes, places on the user's eyeballs is too much. A smile appeared on Izuku's lips, although Nato couldn't see him smiling. I'm very grateful to have celestial healing, which heals me every 2 minutes. Thanks to that Kosei, I've been able to keep theology active all this time. Izuku was the undisputed winner of the first combat in the first round. The second combat. Kaminari Denki vs Shiozaki Ibara. That was a fairly quick battle. Denki concentrated, in his words, 1,000,000 volts and attacked Ibara. She raised a wall with her vine hair, protecting herself from the enemy's attack before cutting it and regenerating her hair. A minute later, they could see her hair emerging from under the ground, capturing a Denki with a short circuit at the brain level. Midoriya Harumi vs Kamariki Togaru. The green-haired girl stepped onto the battlefield. In front of her stood a boy with a mantis head and a mohawk haircut. Do we hold any grudges, Kamakiri-san? Harumi asked before the fight began. No grudges, Midoriya-san, Togaru said, extending his left arm forward as a blade grew from his forearm, surprising Harumi. The mantis boy lunged at her. Harumi extended her right hand and unleashed a burst of flames toward the boy. But he dodged it. You call that a fireball? He taunted. Not that, she said, sliding across the ground to dodge her enemy's blade, which left a mark on the floor, and kicked at him, which he evaded. But this. She clasped her hands together, and a small flame appeared between them. Darn it, Togaru grumbled. Katen, Gokakyu no Jutsu. Fire release, fireball jutsu, she extended her hands forward, releasing a blaze toward her enemy. Though everyone recognized the reference to the famous manga and anime, a sweat drop appeared over their heads. Togaru jumped, avoiding the attack, and ran toward his opponent, throwing punches in the air. But with the blades protruding from his arms, Harumi risked being decapitated. Harumi quickly moved her right arm, shooting a stream of flames at her opponent, who backed off. That's it, I can force him out of the battlefield. But while she focused, Togaru ran toward her. Harumi could only generate a whip of fire, but it was enough to make her enemy retreat, only singeing his shirt. He continued to back off, unable to attack. Togaru, out of bounds. Midnight announced. Midoriya Harumi wins. The match between Itsuko Kendo and Tobira Nagamu was quick and unremarkable. The Class 1B president dodged the strange red spheres her opponent threw until she was close enough to punch him in the face with her enlarged fist and knock him out of the battlefield. You're in my way, old man, Shizuka growled upon seeing her father, Endeavor. If you had used your left side in the cavalry battle, you could have won, Endeavor said. Enough of your youthful rebellion. You must start using everything to defeat All Might. Endeavor stopped speaking as he felt his flames, which ignited his hair, eyebrows, beard, mustache, and suit, being drawn toward a source. A fire magnet. Upon turning to look, they saw Izuku there. You're not her. Shizuka-chan can make decisions for herself and doesn't need to listen to you or fulfill your pathetic goals just because all you can do is see yourself as less than All Might, Izuku said, crushing a flame sphere in his hand. He walked toward the girl with red and white hair and kissed her in front of hero number 2. Defeat Hanta, and we'll meet in the finals. And after winning, we'll go get ice cream, sound good? He gave her a smile that made the girl blush even more. Yee. Yes. See you later, Izuku-kun, the girl said, walking away. And let this be the first and last time I see you trying to force your strange ideas into her head, idiot, Izuku growled, glancing threateningly at Endeavor. Kid, I think not. Hero number 2 felt something cold graze his cheek and open a bleeding cut. Upon closer inspection, He saw some sort of X in the boy's eyes and the knuckle duster with traces of blood. She'll be whoever she wants to be. She doesn't need to listen to you, Izuku said as he walked away. Todoroki Shizuka vs Hantasero. He's good, really good. Rapping tapes that send you flying. Present Mike announced. From the hero course, Hantasero. The dark-haired boy looked ahead. This won't be easy. He's also from the hero course, the son of the second best hero. Present Mike said. With a recommendation, also from the hero course, Todoroki Shizuka. I won't lose easily, Sero said, tying up his opponent with tapes from his two elbows, cutting one of them and starting to drag Shizuka out of the platform. And he starts with a surprise attack, aiming to push his opponent to the limit. Present Mike narrated. Do you think this is the best choice? Sorry, Shizuka grunted as she froze the tapes and freed herself from them with just a slight arm movement. Darn it, Sero said, now scared. When he tried to move, he could only scream. Looking down at his feet, he found them frozen. Sero used his tapes to attack his rival, but Shizuka dodged the attacks or froze the tapes until she reached him, just to smile at him. She froze the ground, created a ramp, and comically pushed him out of the battlefield. That's not fair. Todoroki Shizuka advances. Present Mike announced. Hatsune Mei vs Ida Tenya. Ida-kun. Midnight warned when she saw him putting on a strange device. That goes against the rules for the hero course. Those who need to use equipment must request it in advance. Ida got flustered. I forgot. Aoyama-kun uses one, so I thought it was okay. He made a request, Midnight clarified. My heart has been touched by my opponent's sportsmanship, Ida said. Even though she's from the support course, she said she wanted us to have a fair encounter. She wanted to fight fairly and gave me this equipment. Isn't it wonderful acceleration, Ida-san? Mei asked with a smile. Don't your legs feel lighter than usual? This leg support lightens the load, and a staff emerged from Mei's backpack, nearly causing Ida to trip. Can easily dodge it with my hydraulic accessory. Ida recovered and attacked. I have sensors in this equipment, and I can easily dodge you, even to dodge you from behind. Another staff emerged, he stumbled again, but didn't fall thanks to the rare support equipment giving him stability. What are you planning? The bespectacled boy asked, quite annoyed. Ida-san has changed direction perfectly thanks to the self-balancer I designed, Mei said, more eager to sell her items than to fight Ida. The leg supports detect the user's brain waves. Weren't you going to fight fairly? Ida asked as he ran toward the girl again. Only for her to jump. My electric boots use electromagnetic induction in both for instant evasion. I'll catch her when she lands. Ida used his kosei to accelerate his pace. But Mei spun in the air, with a pistol in her hands, and fired a red net that hugged Ida, leaving him on the ground. 5 cartridges of sticky capture net, thanks to this pistol. She showed the defensive weapon. Who developed these tools? Me, Hatsune Mei. The girl pulled out something resembling a shotgun. Tornado shotgun. She fired, and poor defenseless Ida rolled on the ground like a log until he exited the stadium. The winner is Hatsune Mei. You tricked me, Ida shouted. I used you. Sorry about that, she said. I hate you, Ida yelled one last time. Kuro Iro Shihai vs Tokoyami Fumikage. Go, Dark Shadow, exclaimed the boy with a crow's head as his dark stand advanced directly toward his opponent, who didn't move from where he stood. I've got you, declared the stand, throwing a clawed punch, only to see that the boy was no longer there. What? Where did he go? To the surprise of Fumikage and Dark Shadow, Shihai emerged from a shadow, propelled upward and struck Fumikage in the jaw, making him stumble. Fortunately, the crow-headed boy thought fast and grabbed onto Shihai's shoulders while delivering a kick, managing to hit him in the side. Shihai prepared to attack, but Dark Shadow was coming from behind, so he entered the shadow as if it were water, hoping the stand would hit its owner, but it didn't. He emerged from the stand's nape, but quickly the stand returned to its owner's body, causing his opponent to fall and receive a punch to the stomach, making him recoil. You crafted a good strategy in such a short time. That's certainly admirable, Shihai said before launching a kick, which was caught by Tokoyami, who spun around with the intention of knocking his opponent out of the battlefield, but he simply dissolved before his eyes, blending into the shadows. The bird boy's eyes widened as he managed to form a strategy. A suicidal strategy. Dark Shadow. The boy ordered, causing his stand to emerge again. Where will he come out now? The stand asked, looking in all possible directions. Shihai emerged from the ground, from the shadow cast by Dark Shadow, and Tokoyami kicked him in the face, sending him backward. The stand attacked with swift punches, driving his enemy back, before Tokoyami pushed him out of bounds, taking advantage of his disorientation from the barrage of punches he received. Fumikage Tokoyami is the winner. Midnight announced. The three teenage students from UA, and spies for the villains, found themselves in the bar after being summoned, or rather, brought, by Kurogiri. There, as always, they met Tomura and Kurogiri himself. On the right wall was a television screen with purple letters reading sound only. Izuku, Kyoka, Ibara, said the voice from the other side of the TV, which everyone recognized as Sensei's or All for One's voice. We will use one of my quirks for you to acquire your villain uniforms and identities. Please, come through the door. Before they could ask which door the leader of the League of Villains was referring to, the wall to the right of the kids opened. The three entered and saw a man in an elegant suit and a black mask, eyeless, with life support. Hello, young ones. Kyoka and Izuku kneeled before the man. Sensei, they both said at the same time. Acquiring your uniforms and identities here, on Japanese soil, would be dangerous. Not only for us but for everyone around us, were the words of the AliExpress Darth Vader, who extended his right hand toward the wall, causing a tiny green flame to emerge from his hand, forming a circle before spinning slowly, then violently, seconds before a portal of violet and white light appeared. Let's go. And he stepped through the portal. The three looked at each other for a few seconds before running toward the portal. My quirk, Red Flu, fused with Tokotobashi. It's not easy, but it's useful. We're not in Japan, declared Ibara, before feeling Sensei's hand on her head, sending a shiver down her spine and feet, and a second later, her hair was common and brown. Agilely, the villain did the same with the other two young ones. Now Izuku was brown-haired, and Kyoka was a redhead. We're in a parallel dimension, in an alternate history where superheroes emerged in the 1940s and 1960s, helping the United States establish global hegemony through something called Operation Condor and the Vietnam War. The country is shifting toward a nuclear war with the Soviet Union, costumed vigilantes have been declared illegal, and most heroes are either retired or working for the government. Now, we are in Jersey. He turned a corner, and they found many people waiting in line. Quickly, Sensei extended his arm forward, and a sort of black sword, with red and highlighted veins along the blade, emerged from his palm, impaling 6 of those present, who couldn't even scream. In seconds, they were consumed. Their organs were crushed, their skin dried up. They seemed to age. Soon, there was nothing left of them. I can't just kill them all, he whispered to the young ones. Not with that guy out there. And the great All for One shuddered. According to documentaries and history books, this is the last day this tailor will work. The line moved slowly, and the young ones began to get bored. But All for One's patience was truly admirable. When it was finally their turn, a chubby, bald security guard came to the door, blocking Izuku's way. Do you think I'd let a brat in here? Go play with your action figures, kid. You don't even know who works here. Ah. But Izuku grabbed his hand and froze it. They're with me. Johnny, All for One said, pushing the man aside before allowing them to enter. Hello, dear. Oh, look who it is, Valadius, said the woman behind the counter, showing a smile. The name she had just referred to All for One with confused them. I need you to take measurements for my boys. Do your job, asked. All for One? Valadius? The woman pointed to a door covered with a red curtain. Behind the curtain. The 3 young ones went through the curtain and now found themselves in a tailor shop, while the woman was replaced at the counter by a black-haired, black-skinned woman wearing a gray executive suit. So, who do we start with? She asked. With me, said Kyoka. The woman took their measurements and learned about the ice power. The same happened with Izuku, leading the lady to think they were siblings. Ibara made no comment, but the tailor's wife didn't care. Her questions were short and direct, regarding preferences and colors. Please come back in a week, she requested. All for One approached them and took them away. As they exited the establishment, he asked them to hold hands, and they were surrounded by a violet sand tornado, even shaking their hair. Confused, they just followed their boss back into the establishment. Ibara opened her eyes in amazement when, looking at a Candelario, she found that a week had already passed, and it was Friday. The same woman who had served them was waiting at the counter, smiling. She handed over 3 wooden boxes, being courteous, and allowed them to leave the way they came. // Tokyo, present // Truly, Sensei, Izuku began. You have a wide range of quirks, very interesting. Thank you, Izuku-kun, were the villain's words. And be careful with how you use those new identities. Make sure to conceal them well. Yes, sir, they all said. Izuku tossed something to him. Thank you. All for one nodded and let them go. // Upon arriving home, Izuku decided to examine his suit, a cyan gas mask. A plain black shirt, a dark blue jacket, regular pants, a wristband that would redirect ice. The boots could release blades, allowing him to skate on ice. He put on the suit and tried out the black demonic ice, skating on it and launching special attacks, spheres of solid ice, serrated ice swords, even merging ice sculptures with the life tattoo, bringing to life a dragon, a tiger, and a moose, which then acquired ice armor. Ice Nightmare. He began to brainstorm a villain name. Ice Nightmare? Cold Nightmare? He heard some noise behind him and went to see. He found at least 5 heroes gathered, but none of them did anything, as there were no reporters, cameras, or witnesses. He stepped back before using his pyrokinesis to absorb the fire, recharging himself. What do you think you're doing, you bastard? Shouted one of the heroes, angry. The public hasn't arrived yet. And what about the people trapped inside the burning building? He asked furiously. They deserve to die. Screamed a furious Lucifer, eager for revenge for the deaths caused inside the building. Izuku jumped from the building, covered in tiny ice spheres, icy wind, and snowflakes. When Izuku hit the ground, the ice, cold wind, and snow expanded, freezing the bodies of the present heroes. With one hand, he increased the ice on his enemies' prisons, and with the other, he was draining their body heat, although this second ability was too difficult and tiring. Finally, they died. He took the sword from one of them, coated his back in fire, and wrote on the concrete, Sapphire Ghost.